welcome everybody to Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. This show is brought to you by Operation Encore. They are a 501c nonprofit. They are helping veterans become rock stars every day. So why don't you go on over there to operationencore.org and click their donate button if you can, or at least give them a follow and watch how dreams come true for veterans. Today we have got an awesome episode. I have been looking forward to this for a while now. It has been in the making, and I am proud to bring on Christine Walker with At Ease Veteran Magazine.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm
great. Doing great. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit of backstory about how all this came about and any of your military side and all that good stuff.
So, well, I mean, I guess if we want to make it linear, I grew up in a military family. I mean, none of my parents were active duty growing up, but we have my great grandfather served in World War I. Both my grandfathers in the Army in World War II. My uncle in Vietnam. My dad served in the Air Force. My stepfather was Navy. I was Navy. My brother's Marine Corps. I mean, it's just like we're just a menagerie of service. So it was just kind of a being a Gen Xer and getting out of high school, you're just kind of like, now what? And it's like, oh, the military.
Yep.
Seems fine. Let's try it. So that's what I did, and I became a hospital corpsman and was stationed at Camp Lejeune. And unfortunately, I went in as a reservist, went active duty during my A school, and then Congress passed a Force Reduction Act in the end of '91, and so I was low-hanging fruit. Yep. So they said, "Okay, toodles." And I'm like, dang it, because I didn't have a plan B.
I do remember that because I came in '94, and all the old timers was talking about how they were hoping that they brought back the early retirement and all that stuff. So I do remember everybody talking about it because it was, by the time I was retiring, it was kind of like history had repeated itself, and I was saying the same thing. I was like, man, I hope they come up with early retirement and everything else. So I do remember that. And for the listeners out there that are not military related, the one thing that we always, as veterans, we took for granted was that the military was going to be a guaranteed job.
Right.
You needed me, I didn't need you kind of thought process. Where's my bonus, enticed me to stay. And I know when I got ready to retire, they were literally telling us, you have to label your soldiers who's number one all the way down, and there can't be any ties. Mm-hmm. And they were handing out slots to re-enlist. And the ones that did not get it, congratulations, thank you. You didn't do anything wrong, but your service is no longer needed.
Right.
You can play ping pong, but it ain't for the Army no more.
Right.
And so,
92, there was a 12% force reduction rate. And I'm like, seriously? And this literally was just off the heels of Desert Shield and Desert Storm. So it was like, is that really the smartest thing to do?
Yeah.
But anyway, so, I served. I wanted to make it a career. It didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So after I got out of the military, I literally became kind of I don't know, I guess you'd just kind of say like a hippie chick warrior. I just was like, well, what should I do? I'll go over here. I'll go over there. I'll do whatever. Yeah. And that's what I did. And it's like I went to floral design school, and then I worked for, and then I went through the Texas Peace Officer Academy, and then I worked, I was head of security for a pharmaceutical company, and then I decided, no, I want to go back to college, and then I got a job working as a lead designer for a Christmas tree company. I mean, just random stuff. So, like, literally don't track my career because I didn't have one. I was just like, oh, opportunity, open door. And that's kind of how it went. So in 2017, I moved to a very small town to be closer to my mother, who had just moved here. And I got a job at the local paper. I had my own little like website design and social media company, but I'm like, I really need to work too. So I got this little job. It didn't pay anything. But what I wasn't expecting from this job, the editor was a real curmudgeon. I have other words for him, but I'll be today. But the one thing I did learn is I loved publishing. Who knew? I had never worked for a high school paper. I had never worked for a newspaper. I'd never been in the publishing business. And I thought, I love this. Like, I mean, I really loved it. And it's the weird part is it's so stressful because you're always on deadline.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we went to print literally a week and a half ago. Print copies will be delivered to my house tomorrow. I'll send them out Monday morning. And we start that cycle all over again. So it's like, meet the deadline, meet the deadline. But other than that, I loved it. So that I worked there, but I wasn't a writer. I was very limited. I was more like front office, ad sales, that kind of thing, design. And excuse my dog.
That's all right.
And so we did that. And then I met a gal who was also doing ad sales there. And she and I kind of talked and we're like, wouldn't it be cool to kind of do like a community magazine? So we worked with this other guy and everything he told us was just a bunch of BS. And we're like, let's start our own company. So eventually we did and started producing magazines. But it wasn't my gig. I didn't live in the area. It wasn't a magazine that came to my home. It wasn't, I was the creative director. She was the marketing director. And I loved it, but it was just not my gig. I need something that has purpose connected to it.
Right.
There really wasn't any purpose to that. So not for me anyway. So I stepped off the ledge and started my own publishing company. And I wanted to do a veteran magazine where we could take off our mask. Because what some people didn't know, because I've said it in other podcasts, but for 25 years, I got so much crap from older veterans saying, you're not a veteran, you're not this, you're not that. And so, I believed them. And for 25 years, I didn't tell people I served. Wow. I didn't go to vet. I had no camaraderie with other veterans, nothing. I was just blowing in the wind. And it wasn't until, again, 2017, I walked into an American Legion and the head guys were great. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're a veteran. And I said, not really, and they're like, what do you mean? Do you have a DD-214? I'm like, yeah. And so when they heard my story, they're like, yeah, you're just as much of a veteran as the rest of us.
Yeah.
Because it could have been any one of us. Everybody who goes in the military knows you don't get to pick what you do, where you go, where you're stationed. You have preferences, but does that work out? Sometimes, sometimes not. So anyway, so I kind of got back into the veteran community and I was really passionate because I knew what it was like for 25 years not to have any camaraderie, not to have any connection to veterans. In that 25 years when I was around veterans, I was so nervous and I was so almost like despondent. Like I really, really wanted to connect, but I really, really, really didn't think I deserved to. So I just kind of backed off. And so finally I kind of really got connected and I just found a passion with veterans and all the issues facing veterans. And the biggest thing was, we are one way with civilians and we are another way with each other.
Yeah, that is true.
There was no magazine that represents the latter. You
Yep.
know, all the veteran magazines, and it doesn't matter which one, they all they're all solid in their own right, but they're written for civilians,
Yep.
and a lot of times they're written by civilians. And so I'm like, what happens if there's a veteran magazine where we get to take off our mask and we get to just be with each other?
Yep.
So I started this concept, and in 2020, yes, let's start a magazine and a business in the middle of a pandemic. That sounds like a solid plan. So that's what I did because, I can't do anything easy. We have to ruck uphill all the way.
Yep.
Um, so,
I can relate.
and in March of 2021, we published our first issue by the skin of our teeth. And we have been going strong ever since. In fact, what's interesting is the magazine has kind of organically taken on a life of its own. And when I first published our first couple issues, we had civilian writers and patriot writers, but there were a lot of veteran writers as well. Well, what it's kind of turned into, just with staff shifts and things like that, we've become 100% veteran written.
It's awesome.
And we are 100% independent. We are not censored. We are 100% veteran owned. And we're the only 100% veteran owned, independent, veteran centric magazine written by 100% veterans. So
Yeah.
to veterans. So we don't water anything down. We don't piecemeal. We don't tie it up with a ping pong. We're
You
just
know, I love this because I didn't even realize how much what I'm doing and what you're doing ties together.
yeah,
And until I knew what you were doing before the show, but I didn't know how much we tie. So the nonprofit that I've started, one of the third projects, and I haven't released it yet. I'm still kind of laying it out and writing it out. It's going to be called Warrior Words, and it's for veterans who are trying to write a book or are trying to be a blogger or something like that to help them get to, well, the main purpose is to help them keep writing,
right.
even when they're frustrated.
Mhm.
But the other portion of that is to help them navigate how to get published and the other side of this. And that's the second part of what we're doing is helping veterans live out these dreams, just
Yeah,
like you said. If you want to be a musician or if you want to be a podcaster or a streamer or if you want to be an author, that's kind of where we're at is helping. And it's because we've seen there isn't a community out there for veterans,
right.
not in this aspect. if
Not
you if
really.
you No, there isn't. I mean, if you write a song and you want to try to get it on, Spotify will open its arms and welcome you. Put your
Right,
music here, but
right,
you're going to get buried.
right.
And then you better have money to start advertising and be very good at self promotion,
Yeah,
and it becomes it kind of becomes to the point where you have to question what's more important, my music career or my mental health, because it will drive you nuts.
yeah.
Hey, have you ever wanted to be a part of this show? You now have the opportunity to be a part of the Two Drunk Dudes in a Gunroom show. We have worked with a nonprofit that is starting called Heroes Voices Media Foundation. We are trying to help this foundation get built. You can be a part of it by sponsoring our show. Go to twodrunkdudesinAgunroom.com, sponsor the show, and you will be a part of an amazing organization that will be helping veterans. Thank you. Now let's get back to the show.
Well, and we'll absolutely be a resource for that because I can tell you unequivocally, I've never said no.
That's
I
awesome.
get submission. I literally do not. I mean, there are some things I go out because, like, sometimes I'm like, we kind of need a little bit more of a female vet, you
Right.
know, voice. Because, while those who serve were what, like 1% of the United States that actually
Yep.
served. And of those, women are only 14% of that.
I'm
So,
gonna say with our female veterans, I have had an awakening since I started podcasting.
yeah,
Um, I did not realize how I ain't gonna say how bad they had it because I don't want to treat anybody like a victim, but it has not been fair, and just the little stories. I'm not talking about, they were shunned from the community. I'm talking about stories where I've heard female veterans get out of their car where they were parked in front of a sign that said, for our veteran patrons or whatever.
that's
And as they're walking, somebody screaming at them saying, just because your husband was in the military doesn't mean you can park there.
happened to
You
me.
know, I had a girl come on and tell me about a time she was sitting at the VA waiting to be called to go back there to be seen. And an elderly lady who was there with her husband did not mean nothing by it, but she kind of leaned over and she said, "Oh, are you here with your husband too?" And she's like, "No, I'm a veteran. I'm
Right.
here to be seen." And I
Yeah.
never thought about how disrespectful it is.
The second we get out, we're invisible. I mean,
Yeah,
unless we're walking around with a T-shirt that says, "I'm the vet,"
yeah,
"I served," or a cap designating our, where we were stationed or what ship we were on or what unit we were with. Honestly, the second we get out, within the first, I would say for sure by the third year, you are completely invisible.
yeah. I agree.
And so, not to other vets, mind you. I mean, it
But
wasn't
to the
like
community.
I just got out. There was nothing. I didn't know what a VSO was, American Legion. What the hell's that? I had no idea.
Yeah.
But a lot has changed, and there's a lot more support. So yeah, we like to get I like to get my sisters in there in the
Of
mix.
course.
We do have a different perspective, and
Yep.
and it's not all bad. It's not all, oh, this was so hard, blah 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 blah. But there's an element of, when you're a woman in the military, you can never ever ever under any circumstances be the weakest link.
Yeah.
Period. It's just
Yeah.
an unwritten rule. And I think other female vets would say, especially who served around the time I did, would be like, yep, 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 that's true. And it's like, you're never, ever, ever, you can never, ever, you have to just suck it up.
Yep.
And then the camaraderie thing, because, female veterans aren't always stationed together. I mean,
Yep.
there's not always a lot of women in your unit or your company or your whatever. And so, yeah. So, but we're salty, and,
Yep.
and we have our tribe, and even the guys, you guys would go and you would be like, what is going on? I'm part of a couple female veteran groups, and it's just like, whew, I sometimes forget how salty we really are. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, but anyway, so back to the magazine. I really really wanted to. It has become this amazing thing. Not, it wasn't even done purposely. It just
Mhm.
naturally happened, and it's been great. I mean, I've never said no to a veteran who submitted a story or anything. I mean, sometimes it's like, wait, because we're either in the middle of an
Right.
issue, or we just don't have the room this issue and we have to wait till next issue, or this would be a much better thing over here, in the fall, or it would be better in the winter because it kind of has that vibe. But I've never said no. And now we just finished our third publishing year. Yay.
That's awesome.
So we have had 12 issues, and in those 12 issues, 197 veteran writers have shared 433 articles
That's
over the course
awesome.
of 2 years. So,
It-
so we're kind of, excuse my French, we're kicking ass.
that absolutely.
And we're doing it all, I didn't have a lot of seed money. I didn't have a lot. We just literally go by the skin of our teeth and just get it done.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And we've had some amazing cover stories. Um, we've had William Branham, who's a Navy SEAL, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller. We did his last spring. Ray Kashkar. Our issue now is Carl De La Guerra, who runs KDI, which is a elite security company that does like security for like dignitaries and celebrities and stuff like that. So that's what he does now.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: when you started this, and that first episode came out, right? You're like, we're like, we did it, we made it. I mean, how many bottles of champagne was opened up? I mean, you had to be ecstatic.
I was excited, but I was more like terrified because I'm like, well, crap. Now we've actually published. Now we have to do this again. And
Yeah.
so it became like, okay, let's just get it done. And there really wasn't, I mean, yes, I'm not an idiot. We have a very extensive business plan. We have a lot of contingencies in that business plan. But with the magazine the first year and a half, we were just like, well, let's just go. Let's just do it. And that's what we did. And there really was no plan. There was no anything. We just kind of put it together and got it out and then it just kind of developed over time and now it's like now we have to plan because there's only so many issues a year. There's only 4 issues a year. So that's 4 cover stories. And that's, essentially we have about 30 to 33 articles in an 88-page quarterly magazine every issue. So, I mean, that's, 3366, that's a little bit over 100 articles for the year. So now it's like, now we have to start planning.
Hey, let me tell you guys about an amazing organization that is being built right now. It is called Heroes Voices Media Foundation, and it is an organization that is using media to help veterans express themselves and tell their stories using media, as in podcasting, like the Two Drunk Dudes in a Gunroom show. It is also using music, like Gunroom Radio, and it is also using books like What Is Coming Soon with Warrior Words. So if you would like to help, go check out Heroes Voice Media Foundation.org. You can find it at our Facebook page, and you can also find it in the description of this episode. So let's get back to the show.
Because it with 88 pages, and then we're probably going to go up at some point in 24 to 92 pages. So, I think we'll have to stop at 100 or 104. But
well, I can tell you, I know exactly where you're coming from because the radio station started just like that. It was I seen an ad that said start your radio station for $39.95, and we started, and it grew so fast that I was like, man, because I didn't say no to anybody either. I didn't care if you recorded the song in your bedroom and it was just you getting something off your chest. If you were a veteran, your music got played.
Right.
And it got to the point where like each person's song was getting played like once every 2 days because we had that many songs.
Right.
And so I was like you. I was like, now we're gonna have to plan this. We're gonna have to start actually putting some thought into this.
Right.
So, and we're up to 3 stations now. We got a country station and a rock station and a mix station, but we had to do that just so that people could get their airtime. And
yeah, and we're actually, and we pretty much, I mean, we have a big staff writer meeting later this week, but we we're actually planning into 24, into 25 now.
That's
And
awesome.
and it's like I hate telling people, I'm sorry you gotta wait. But the cool thing is occasionally if it's a smaller story, you can kind of tuck things in here and tuck things in
Hmm.
there. And interestingly enough, I get submissions from non-veterans too, and like veteran organizations or organizations that have a veteran, kind of arm extension to their
Right.
thing. And one of sometimes that's when I have to say no.
Yeah.
Like there's one a submission I got that I'm gonna have to respond tomorrow and be like, I'm sorry. We have we're 100% veteran written,
Yeah.
and I looked at his profile. There is no service in his background, so that's an automatic no. And it's not that we're trying to be difficult, but there's something about service, and it is a club.
Yeah.
And if you didn't go through boot camp, you didn't go through the gas chamber, you didn't go to your school, you didn't deal with the BS, then you're
Yep.
not a part of the club.
Yep.
And that's really what it is. And I mean, we've had so many. We have last issue. I was a lady reached out to me and she's like, my boss, this is my boss. He was a Green Beret. He really wants to write for your magazine. I'm like, what are you talking about? Where did he even hear about us? And she's like, I don't know. He was at some conference and he was a speaker and somebody had the magazine and showed it to him and he was like totally stoked. And so he made me research it and find you. And I'm like, okay, so all right. And he's like this super amazing guy who has, he's a wonderful human being, but he's also, has like all these hotels. He's a hotelier and he was a Green Beret, but so he's one of our new feature writers. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and it's great, and he's really good. He did the best article on the leadership of Washington crossing the Delaware. It is superb. So, and that's the other thing is seeing how much talent is in the veteran community. I'm sure you see it as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm blown away by the talent. People are like, "Oh well, what do I do after?" I mean, I have one gal, and she's amazing, phenomenal writer, and she's not even out of the military yet. So
Yep.
we kind of created a non de plume for her, so she could still write for us without any caveats of getting in trouble with her command.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so she's about to retire, but very soon, and then we can do a big reveal party, if you will, or a reveal article about what she did. So, and if
Yeah.
it spurs on other active duty to write for us, we'll do none the plumes for you. I have zero problem with that because
That's
they have
awesome.
a voice too,
Yeah.
and so that's what we do.
I
Yeah,
think I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand as well, and it's not about segregation. We're not trying to segregate the veteran community into their own little group, but we're trying to quiet the noise
right,
around the veteran group so that we can talk.
right,
And I think that's where a lot of the problem is when you hear the word veteran, for some reason, the first thing that comes to your mind is PTSD.
right,
And that should not be what a veteran is pictured as. Veterans have dreams, like as you're finding out, veterans want to be writers and authors, and
yep,
they want to be musicians and lawyers and doctors and everything out there too. We're not that group that you just put in a glass cage that says break in case of war, you
right,
know. And just because we spent 15 years of our life, 10 years, whatever it is, serving before we put our dreams on the hold, it doesn't mean that the veteran community should be punished for that. So if silencing some of that noise on the outside allows that veteran to be able to speak freely, that's what needs to happen. And that's what you can tell that's what you've done, and what you're passionate about is to make sure that those stories get heard and heard clearly, Um,
Well, and
and
what amazes me about the whole thing is how phenomenally diverse the stories in our magazine are. I mean, we've done stories on a Navy chief who started a hydroponic greenhouse that
okay.
that feeds homeless vets, because there's a lot of food insecurity within the veteran community. So
Hmm.
he started a hydroponic garden. We've had musicians, we've had individuals. They've done, we have a guy who does a feature what we call Mind Body Soul, and he is a yoga instructor and he talks about meditation. We have
Yep.
another guy who runs a gym with his wife, and he's a Marine. And phenomenal human beings.
Yep.
And so they do our fitness because, we know as you get older, fitness
Yep.
isn't always our priority.
Yep.
If we're dealing with, health issues or whatever the case may be. You know, and yeah, I mean, yeah, we covered the PTSD, and we're absolutely about, hampering the veteran suicide rate. We're tired of seeing
Absolutely.
brothers and sisters die at their own hands. Um, I'm tired of seeing homeless vets on the street. And
Yep.
I could get really political about that. I won't, but I'm just saying, and then I just read an article that there are certain factions that are actually giving our VA medical care to illegal immigrants. I'm like, wait, that money is supposed to go to us.
Yep.
And we're having a hard enough time getting appointments as it is. So there are things that we will cover, and like that, we will absolutely cover that in an
Yeah.
article because it's unacceptable.
It is unacceptable.
And that is why you and I and everybody else who has started any kind of veteran business or veteran organization, we're literally like, okay, if that's how you want to be, no problem. We'll take care of our own, and
Yep.
we'll do it better than you're doing it.
Yep.
And that's really kind of because what we offer, and I don't know if it's so much as we offer it as much as we offer it in some respects, but it's more of a platform where people can be like, I've got this organization. They would never get national coverage by veteran readership anywhere else
Yeah.
unless on a podcast. So we highlight their organization, we highlight what they're doing. I mean, veterans, we're like onions. There's so many layers to each one of us, and likes and dislikes and strengths and weaknesses that, to sit there and put us all in one little bubble,
Yep.
it doesn't work. And that's one thing the magazine's showing too is we're so different, but we're it's like we still have that mission focus, like we're still there for each other,
Yep.
but we're just kind of sharing, hey, this is what I do, this is what we're doing, this is how we're handling this is what we're doing over here. And it has created the most wonderful um smorgasbord, if you will, of a magazine. And yeah, we've got dark humor, you know we
That's the
have
veteran way.
We've got, Gunny Esterly, who put together Born in a Bar, Uncle Sam's Misguided Children, and
Hmm.
Born in a Bar too. So these are very inappropriate stories that you would never see except in that book and our magazine. Maybe we'll, you know.
Yep.
So yeah. So in this issue, it's like above his little story is completely inappropriate, but it's okay. I figured, when I started doing that and allowing things that maybe are a little bit off color, a little bit, on the dark side, I did it in a very timid way because I'm like, oh, what's going to happen to us? But the reality is like, you know what? We've all kind of got us fine. We
Well,
all
it's
of
it's
us have
also
enough.
important to know that in this industry, especially in the veteran community, as much as your content is important, but being real
Yeah.
and being authentic is also extremely important.
Oh, we're real, all right.
And that's what I was going to say. So allowing stuff like that when from the veteran community, you have to, because that is who we are.
It's a part of who we are for
Yeah.
sure. And we have a dark side. You
Yep.
know, I totally off subject, but I went over to my best friend's house last night and he'd never seen the movie Rat Race.
Mm-hmm.
And now just to give some context, he'd never seen it and he's a Marine. I'm Navy corpsman, and he'd never seen it. So we were watching it and he was like, it was so messed up. And I'm like, but it was so funny. And he's like, yeah, because and there was just a lot of and it's like only really veterans like find that humor
Yep.
hilarious. So yeah, so it's just we have a different, we were cut from a different cloth, period.
Yep. And the other reason, because I ask people, or people ask me all the time, why is it that you think that the little small nonprofits, the mom and pop, as I say, nonprofits, are so much more successful than the VA and these large collaborations with all this money? And I said, I can tell you why. They're ran by veterans,
Right.
and their rules are by the veteran way.
Right.
And one of those ways is we 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 can just as much put our hand on your shoulder and help as put our foot up your ass and tell you to get up.
Yep.
We have no issues with holding people accountable in our community, and then afterwards saying, okay, well, now you screwed up, you stepped on your dick, let's go, it's time to get up and get motivated and fix your problems.
Yeah.
and
And
and that's why we're successful.
yeah. And also, we're successful because we are we know who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, it's just kind of, everyone else is like, well, okay, screw you, because I don't need your permission.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing that's the crux of it is we don't need your permission. We're not in the military anymore. We don't have to go up the chain of command. We're going to do what we know is right for our brothers and our sisters and each other and ourselves, and with a kind of screw you, fuck you kind of
Yep.
mentality. And that's really where I've seen us come from, and we have that too. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there are days I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I'll get an email or a text or somebody will reach out or I'll be on a podcast and I'm like, this is why we do what we do. This
Yep.
is why we sacrifice. This is why we do it. And one of the caveats of our of highlighting veteran organizations is, one, they don't all have to be veteran run, but the majority of their money has to go to veterans. They can't have an operational budget of X amount of dollars and only 10% of that is going to vets. They have to be boots on the ground, tangible, making a difference in the quality of life. That's
It makes sense.
caveat. So we're allowing a lot of nonprofits to share their story, or if we have the resources. One of our, in fact, one of our staff writers went to the Irreverent Warrior Silky hike in San Antonio.
Yep.
She loved it, and I'm like, exactly.
Yep.
And it was the best. I've read a lot on Irreverent Warriors. This far exceeds. It is the funniest article. So well written, but it is so funny. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. And so that's what we do. We lift each other up.
Yeah.
And yes, we give each other a kick in the ass when necessary.
That's it. That's what it takes.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: so it's three, or you said, is it four articles or four magazines a year? Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're monthly publication.
And so they're getting it's a physical magazine too. It's not a e-copy, right?
Yes, it is. We have physical, so I'm reaching up to my. So this was our fall issue.
Okay.
So we are a perfect bound. This thing is heavy.
Yeah, it looks like it.
It's over 13 ounces, and
Wow.
is it is literally a like super nice coffee table magazine. Um, and it has everything in the world in it. I mean, we have everything. And then we also have our e-magazine as well.
And so if somebody wanted to subscribe, what would the cost be if they wanted the say the actual physical magazine?
So we have two options. We
Okay.
have you can I mean our costs went up, so we had to raise our prices up. But it's 68 a year annually or $7 a month.
Oh wow, okay. You said $60 a year or $7 a month. That's not
68.
bad.
Yes.
68.
But you're getting an 88 page like coffee table
Yeah.
magazine. And the best thing is, in fact, I'm just working on some ad stuff. I do like little pamphlets for potential sponsors and advertisers just to kind of give them um, a vibe of what's going on in the publishing world as far as advertising goes. And um, right now, print is on the rise like crazy ever
Yeah.
since 2020. And believe it or not, people are like, well, what's the majority? What's the age, the majority of age? I bet it's like Vietnam vets. I'm like, nope, you would be wrong. Oh, does it start? Nope, you would be wrong. The highest, we have 70% of our print subscribers are OIF, OEF. And there's a new
Wow.
trend going with millennials and Gen Zs that love tactile media. They love records. They're getting record players and records. I mean, they're ordering magazines, and we are definitely a niche magazine. We're
Yep.
directly to the veteran community. Um, so we are definitely meeting a need. We're also a resource. We also have a free e-magazine, but the mobile, I'm going to be honest, sucks. It's really hard to read because it's so
Yep.
small. But if you're on a desktop, if you're on a tablet, it's really not so bad. But the e-magazine is free, and the reason it's free is because we're also a resource. We have a lot of resource and information and different connections. We use QR code technology in all of our magazines. So if you're reading an article and you're reading an article, like say on, we did Dave Bray, USA as our cover. He was a hospital corpsman and stationed with Marines, and he is now a wonderful. He's a phenomenal artist. And so when we did that, he just had a new video come out called A Better Man, starring Ray Cash Care. Ray Cash Care played a homeless vet. And so in the video. And so I had a QR code in the actual magazine in the layout. So as people are reading about A Better Man, they could just scan it and actually watch the video while they're reading.
That is awesome.
And
I'm
then
gonna I'm gonna tell you I like so much what you guys are doing that I have actually just went ahead and subscribed.
hey,
So I
awesome.
am I am, a fan of what you're doing for veterans, and there's no way I could not have this magazine sitting on my counter.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
I
imagine, people are going to read it, and on the back cover, well, for now, on the back cover, if they scan this QR code and they're at
mhm,
their house, it'll take them straight to our subscribe page.
that
And
is awesome.
the other thing we do is in the e-magazine, we link everything. So advertisers, they if they have URLs or a QR code, we'll link everything directly. So it's literally one click away.
That is awesome.
And so that's what we do.
I think it's important that what you're doing, and the fact that you have an actual physical copy, because I have tried e-copy stuff, and I love, I'm good with computers. I love computers. I just don't want to get my information and read it from a computer.
Well, that's what's why there's such an increase in um, sub- subscriptions to magazines and newspapers, and it's called digital fatigue. And
Yeah.
everybody, I mean, I'm a Gen X. I didn't grow up with computer. Well, we did, but I won't share my computer stories from way
It
back.
made some really funny noises getting online, huh?
No, we won't go there. But I'm on the computer nonstop, 24
Yeah.
7. If I want to read for pleasure, I can guarantee you it's not going to be on a device or a computer or
Yep.
anything. I'm going to pick up a physical book
Yep.
or a physical magazine, or listen to music, and listen to music while I'm reading. And and also the other thing I do is book reviews. um I'm a nerd, so I'm a proud nerd. So I do a lot of book reviews of veteran writers.
That's
And one
awesome.
of my favorite writers is coming out with his second book in March. So I'm like, I need to get in touch with him so I can get a physical copy.
That is
So I
awesome.
can, so I can do that. But we've got poets, we've got vets who have written poetry books, right? Vets who. One of the things in this current issue, the winter issue, um, there was a book called Face of the Enemy, written by David O.
Mhm.
Chung, and so they nicknamed him Doc, DOC.
Mhm.
He was a vet. He got drafted late, like in 1971. He was drafted, and
Yeah.
he went into the Air Force thinking, oh, well, Air Force, they're not really going to be on the front lines. Well, lo and behold, he ended up smack dab in Vietnam on the front lines.
Wow.
And he was Asian. So he had all of that coming at
Yeah.
him because the Vietnamese wouldn't accept him because he was an American soldier.
Yeah.
The American soldiers had a hard time accepting him because he looked like a
Yeah.
Vietnamese. So there was all of that. I mean, it is one of the best books. If you want to read a really good, it's called Face of the Enemy by David Chung.
Okay.
So yeah, so we do book reviews, and I've done book reviews on people who aren't veteran writers, but it's like a long lost veteran story that kind of needs to be told.
Right.
Uh, but there's so many veteran writers now that if they send me a book, eventually I'll do a book review on that in the magazine. And so it points them to the Amazon, so people can buy their book. And it doesn't matter if it's an entrepreneurial type book, or if it's fiction, or if it's a self-help kind of book. Doesn't matter. I'll do them all. I
That's
did
awesome.
I did a book review on a woman who was a whistleblower with the VA, and it was called A Sacred Duty. Excellent book, by the way. So it tells her story and just all the backlash and all the things that came down on her for telling the truth.
Yeah. Doing what our code tells us we should be doing to
Yep,
begin with.
yep. And she was a Navy vet. So anyway, so we're here, and we're willing to take on the tough stuff too. I mean, I know a lot of we have some writers who have organizations that are specific to like vaccine injuries.
Yeah.
um, we have We're connected with American Warrior Project, who is doing Operation Deep Dive. So what they're doing is the VA, when the VA calculates the veteran suicide rate, they're only using the numbers of the amount of veterans that are actually enrolled in the VA.
Yeah.
Well, only 35% of veterans out of 21.8 million are actually enrolled. So 65% of those aren't.
Yep.
So they want to know what the actual real, because we know with the fall of Afghanistan, still devastated from that. We know that Gen X. I mean, Desert Storm vets. That's on the rise.
Yeah.
Suicide is on the rise with my generation. Veteran suicide is definitely on the rise with female vets.
Yep.
And so, what they're doing is they're going state by state through the state's coroner's office and getting all the service members, comparing service members' social security numbers to their service and getting those numbers. And what they're finding, it's actually closer to 44 to 60 a day.
I believe that number to be probably a lot closer.
So we'll tackle that because that's a part of who we are as well. And so, yeah, we'll cover. No subject is off limits with us.
That's awesome, and these are important topics to the veteran community. You know, I mean, that's one thing I also love about the veteran community is if you talk to the veteran community, most of the time you're going to find out that most veterans are not very political. They don't give two shits about what's happening in the White House until it involves veteran stuff, the VA
or military
wars, right?
Or military.
What are you doing to our brothers and sisters?
Right.
And then you'll catch their attention. But other than that, I consider myself to be politically homeless. I don't really have a thought process in it. And that's one thing I like about it is you get those kind of feelings because the people legitimately care.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about the big thing. I mean, I think most veterans didn't really get actively involved in the COVID situation until it was being forced down their throat that they had to get the shot. And, at that point, then it became an awakening, like, what are you doing to us?
Right.
Well, I take that back. No, because this was one thing that bothered me. I was not in the military anymore. I was retired, but I can relate. Had I been stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, when the COVID situation happened and you forced me to stay at Fort Bliss, Texas, I promise you I would have gone nuts. Because that, in my opinion, is the armpit of the Army. And I literally was going to get out of the military when I was there. And it was easier for me to re-enlist to get out of there than to wait until my end of service.
Right.
So, I felt bad for these veterans that were stuck, away from their families in Korea and couldn't PCS because they had literally shut down even our military.
Right.
Well,
and the other thing too is like when I went to boot camp, I remember this so vividly, is because I didn't grow up in a political home.
Yeah.
My parents never talked about politics. I mean, my stepdad was pretty salty. He was a Navy vet, so he'd be like, that guy's an asshole."
Yep.
But we're not a political family. We were not activists. We were not any of that. So I remember it being drilled in boot camp that you are not political. You do not have, not that you don't have a voice, but that doesn't concern you. You need to be mission focused. We're here. We all wear the same uniform for a reason.
Yep.
This isn't about you individually. This is about us collectively, right? And there's been such a dramatic shift the last, for sure, 3 years, but even before that.
Yeah.
And it's like, excuse my friend, but what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yep.
Like these guys now with all this diversity and all this stuff, and I'm so special, and I can wear my uniform however I want to because I'm this or I'm that. Are you out of your ever loving mind?
Yep.
The military readiness in our country right now is terrifying.
It is.
My opinion. And I'm not even I've just read a lot of military battles and World War II and Vietnam, and I've read a lot, and it's like it's a logistical nightmare.
Yep.
And it's like these policies are going to get people killed.
Yep. They did get people killed. I mean, look at us leaving Afghanistan.
But I mean, these young kids going in now who are like, oh well, we're so diverse and we're so this. Yeah, and you know what? You and your friends are going to be dead.
Yep.
Because none of you understand that the enemy does not care about your feelings. They
Nope.
don't care what gender you are. They do not care. And by the way, you might want to keep that under wraps because some of them will chop your head off just for
Yep.
the mere fact that you exist. I
Yep.
mean, are you insane? And it's like, I that's what makes me angry.
Yep.
What makes me angry is that we are so we are not ready. And politically, I don't think it's a left, right, blue, red
It ain't.
anything. It's simple. It's just it really is coming down to right and wrong.
It is, and the other thing too, putting my personal opinions aside, with the how we left Afghanistan, I'm not going to put all of that on the White House and the people back here. People have forgot this was a multi-generational war. You
Mm-hmm.
had one generation that was there for the first half,
Did it?
and a whole nother generation that finished it off.
Right.
And I know when I first came in, it was not uncommon to see somebody take 12 years to become an E6.
Right.
And by the time the war was over with, if you weren't an E7 by 12 years, they were looking at you like, what is wrong with you? Why are you not getting promoted?
Right.
And now, to make Sergeant Major, you were going to have to be over 20 years, 25, 26 years to make Sergeant Major. Now, you can make it in 17, 18 years to be a Sergeant Major.
Right.
And you look at that, that comes with a price. The things that everybody had back there, that 12-year E6, he had what that really weird thing you can get at Walmart. It's called experience. I mean, let's
Right.
face it. The decision-making process that happened on ground. I'm not even talking about the decision to pull out, not pull out, any of that stuff. The decisions that was made on ground was piss poor leadership.
Yeah. Well, his physical leadership all the way up.
Yeah, it was.
Ground
But
all the way up. Yeah.
but the guys on the ground didn't have the life experiences to make correct decisions. And they sure as hell don't have the backbone to tell the people above them, you're making a bad decision. This is wrong.
Well, one did, but he got in
What?
trouble.
Yeah.
We know that. But
Yep.
you're right. I mean, it's like we have a crisis in leadership.
Yep.
Not to turn a phrase that happens to be the title of his book, but it's true. And then with the whole COVID mandate thing, so many are like, "Nope, I'm out. See ya."
Yep.
And so now we have all those experienced people that are gone
Yep.
because they knew taking that was not right for them, not right at all.
Yep.
There's no safety data whatsoever, no short term, no mid or long range safety data, and therefore no informed consent, and therefore dangerous.
Yep.
And so at the end of the day, it's like now we don't have that experience, those people in place. And now we're seeing an increase of cancers, 300%. We're seeing myocarditis, even just among pilots, and injuries that are grounding them. So now we don't have these experienced pilots because they did take it. I mean, it's really bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, obviously, as the veteran community, what can we do? I mean, now they're begging people to come back in, and you're like, I don't know where I'd be with that.
Yep.
I'd probably take a hard pass.
I think I would too.
Yeah, it's like, oh, wait, now you want me back because you need my experience, but you wouldn't treat me like a human being and give me my exemptions. I mean, I remember in boot camp, I don't know if I was a corpsman, and I knew I was going to be a corpsman. And in boot camp, we had waivers for frigging everything.
Yeah.
You smoked pot 2 days before you jumped on the bus to go to boot camp, there's a waiver for that.
Yep.
If you came from a home that didn't take medications, or it was a religious thing, there was a waiver for that. The fact that none of these waivers were getting signed, it's like, what?
Yep.
And okay, it may limit where you go or what you do, but it's not going to limit your service. It's
Yep.
not going to, you're not going to be punished for not taking it. And yet here we are, they were.
Yep.
And it's like, what the hell is going on?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. The one thing that makes our military great is because as a leader, you are the direct reflection that you're putting on that soldier.
That's
you
right.
know and we learned that the trust that we had with our leaders was they're not going to tell me to do something that they wouldn't be willing to do themselves.
Right.
And you start looking up and you see that maybe your platoon sergeant, your sergeant major, your battalion commanders, your regiment commanders, they're all taking it, right?
Right.
But then you see the policy that the government passes where it says, well, Congress is exempt, they don't have to take it if they don't want to.
Or the
Now,
post office. The post
or the
office.
post office. Yeah. Any government
Yeah.
agency. So now wait a minute. I thought we were going to look and I need to see that my leaders are on board with this too.
Right. And did we
Yeah.
not do anything from the whole anthrax
Yeah.
vaccine way back in the day?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what I learned from that. Don't lose your damn shot record. I took that shit so many damn times.
but at the end of the day, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think about it. It's like since I was 18 years old, I wasn't even registered to vote when I joined the military. I was like, who cares?
Yep.
Maybe I should have cared a little bit more than I did. But I've been a registered independent my entire life, and I'm really, really, really good with that now.
Yeah. Well, I think you made the right choice.
Yeah. And that's the funniest thing is like we're not super political, but I feel like sometimes our hand is being forced, and we're not even like red or blue or left or right or whatever. We're just like, take care of our veterans. That's all we ask. But since you're not, now we have to get pissed off, and now we have to go, register and become candidates and take over because you're not doing the job you need to do.
And they wonder why things happen. Well, when you piss off a voting party that the only emotion that they have is anger, and I mean, let's face it, some of us out there have not figured out how to control that, but that's the only emotion that the military gives you, at least in the Army. That's how we treat everything. Oh, you can't do enough push-ups? Get pissed off.
Yeah.
Use that anger to fuel you.
Yeah.
And so that's the only emotion when you get out. That's what you have.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it was a very smart decision. I had a old crusty NCO one time tell me when I was a young E5.
Those crusties are the best.
They are. And he told me, he said, you better watch how you treat those soldiers, because just because you're here in garrison doesn't mean that one day you won't be in combat, and everybody has live rounds. And sometimes people don't forget. So you might want to watch how you treat people.
Yeah.
And he's right. 68 months in deployment statuses, I've seen some soldiers pull guns. We've had soldiers shoot other soldiers. They don't forget.
Right. And that's the thing. So anyway, with the magazine, we're just, when I say we'll do any story, I'll do any story. My only caveat is this. It's like, listen, I'm a patriotic American. When I took that oath at 18, I meant every word of it.
Yeah.
Every word of it. And it's like safeguarding our Constitution right now really seems like something we need to do more of.
Yep.
And that's one thing for me, at least my perception is this. They can tell me all day long to sit down and be quiet, but I'm not going to do that.
Yep.
And it's like the only time you actually give up those rights is when you stop using them.
Yep.
And that's what the magazine is. I mean, every issue we have a little thing at the back, a little graphic at the back before the end of the magazine that just spells out the First Amendment.
That's awesome.
And it's just like, and sometimes we'll do the Second Amendment, but we'll go back and forth. First and Second Amendments, of course, fourth, fifth, sixth, they're all good too. But we've seen a lot of injustice.
Yeah.
And it's like the only way we can keep them is to keep using them.
Yep.
And to keep moving forward and to not be intimidated and and that's why we don't water anything down. Now there are some things where I'm like, I'll get stories of like, is this still classified information?
Right. Yep.
I'm like, so I'll have to go do my own research, because if I can find it online, anybody can find it online. So
Yep.
then, okay, it's fine. But sometimes I get things I'm like, ooh, we can't do that.
Yeah.
I do not want, the CIA or FBI at my door.
Yeah.
But yeah, the only way to lose those rights is to not use them. So we're using them to the fullest, and as clearly as you are. So
absolutely, and I think it's important.
Mm-hmm.
Before we end this, so I know I've had the website down there. Is there social media places that they could find you well?
We're everywhere.
That's
we are everywhere. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. Please forgive, I'm not really good with Instagram.
Me neither.
So I don't really do Instagram well. I maybe post like once a quarter on there, but Twitter I'm on a lot. Facebook I'm on all the time. And then we're on some of the others too, like Getter and Gab, and I don't know. They're just, there's so many out there.
Yep.
Pick one.
And there's only so many hours in the day to update all that stuff too.
Oh my gosh, I literally would need a full-time person. If I could afford it, I would have a full-time person just doing social media. That's all they would. And then my life would be free.
So, absolutely. It is. Social media is not easy.
Which is funny considering I used to be someone who used to do social media for clients back in the day. Now I'm like, no. I don't like to be on social media. I don't want to check. People are like, I sent you a message. I'm like, great, I'll check it tomorrow.
Yep.
Because I don't like social media. But yeah, so it's weird how things change. You turn 50 and all of a sudden you're like, no, I don't have to put up with that anymore. No, I don't like that anymore.
Yep.
But that's one thing we're doing. We're just kind of kicking ass and taking names after the fact. And I'm so grateful to every single writer who's written for us, and every single veteran organization who has allowed us to share what they do for the veteran community. And, so we're everywhere. Oh, here's a fun thing. We've been wanting to start a podcast for a little bit, but I don't want to do it. So we're kind of working it out that it looks like we may have a podcast starting. This is exclusive for you. Next year.
Awesome.
And it's gonna be called A Little Bit More at Ease.
Okay.
Words. That's my superpower, by the way, playing on words. So a little bit more at ease, and it's just going to be kind of a really casual conversation like this with some of our previous, cover stories and some of our previous writers, and they're just going to get together and drink coffee or water or beer, whatever they want, and just kick it.
That's awesome.
Every once in a while, I might pop my head in and be like, "Hi guys, okay, bye."
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, so the program that under our nonprofit for podcasts is called Military United Podcast Streams. So if there's anything that we can do to help you,
that would
by all means,
Well, and also we actually want to do that because we actually have a page of, right now it's 27 veteran podcasts, but we're going to start growing that in 2024.
Okay.
So adding more veteran podcasts, and We may go to the effort of actually creating QR codes for each one of them, so you can just scan it on the magazine and it'll go straight there.
Well, that's awesome.
So yeah, but I do want to talk to you because I really think that would be a cool article.
Okay.
Because I know podcasts are a really big thing now, and we'd love to get you in the magazine anyway and get
I
you on.
think
So.
I think podcasts are going to be the news of the future. I really do.
Well, that, and I think magazines, newspapers, records, I mean, tactile type things.
Yep.
People are going old school.
Yeah. When I said that, I meant the Fox News and the CNN. That stuff's going away.
Bye bye.
You know?
See
Yep.
ya. Nobody's watching you anymore.
Nope.
You know, I'll watch little snippets on Twitter of different people and different podcasts, and but yeah, I get my news from Twitter. Sad to say, but it's true.
Yeah, and I have an hour and some odd minute drive every day one way to work, and so all I listen to is other podcasters.
Yeah.
And I like that because I get to decide if what that person is telling me is something I want to believe or something I want to research. There's no agenda. There's no person behind the screen, pulling back the cape saying you will say this, and that's what I love about it.
As kids, the eyeballs that were going like this.
Yep.
You will believe this. You will believe this. Well, that's kind of where we're at now.
Yep.
So yeah. So, and that's the cool thing. And the best thing about it is everybody has very different political views in our magazine. I mean, but they all love this country. They all love the service. We honor their branch. We never denigrate the branches ever.
Yeah.
Although we don't know quite what to do with Space Force yet. We're confused.
What? Well, in their defense, I think they're going to be okay with that because most of them are all IT guys anyway. So I don't think they're going to be too upset. I don't think they realize that they're even part of a branch anymore. I think they're still kind of going, I just wanted to hack shit. Yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, Coast Guard, they're the little redheaded stepchild of the military. It's like, we love you, but you're going to catch all the crap. Air Force is the second. He's the little brother that catches all the crap.
Yeah.
And usually it's Army, Navy, and Marine Corps who are like the bullies.
And that's because our uncle has babied those Air Force little babies and gave them all the luxury stuff.
Yeah. So so it's worth it. They didn't have to follow the same rules we did.
No.
We've only been around for 250 years, but whatever.
Time out. Uncle Sam used to beat my ass. I didn't get time out.
So I mean, it's been great. I've had such a fun time here.
Yeah, me too. Well, we'll go and throw the exit video, and if you don't mind staying, we'll chat a little bit afterwards. All right?
Absolutely.
All right. You guys take care. Be safe, and we will see you next episode.